being retired, I can't afford a lot of this stuff because it's so inflated. I do not like Biden at all. Not at all.
I didn't like hearing the current president now say that, if you're not black if you don't vote Democrat. I thought that was a load of BS. I thought that was an insult.
Represent.
Do you have any worry about the possibility of another January 6th style insurrection on January 6th, 2025?
Unfortunately, a number of Republicans in the Congress after January 6th characterized it as tourists who just got a little overexcited, minimizing and normalizing violence. And Trump has never made any secret in his rallies and in his statements that there's a subtext of violence that's permissible, at least under his banner. And so I think that's another part of the danger we face, that he is clearly setting the ground for more violence, more insurrection, and he gets to decide when and where and why.
President.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got more bad news for Joe Biden and more liberal tears to go along with the bad news, because it seems as if, like James Carville said, nothing is working. Absolutely nothing is working, okay? All of the Trump trials have fell apart. They got one last one, okay, that they're relying on. The Stormy Daniels one. Michael Cohen's testifying today. We'll see how that turns out. I think regardless of the result, it's not really going to matter, okay, because the trials that people actually care about, not going to happen for the election unless there's some type of miracle, some type of act of the devil, right? Because it definitely wouldn't be an act of God, right, for those trials to happen before the election. But anyways, Trump is extending his lead in the polls, right? As I predicted, I told you guys, I said, yeah, I think as we get closer towards the election, Trump's going to really start to run away here, because people are realizing that, hey, this guy Joe Biden ain't it, right? I mean, that's the simplest way I can put it. Whether you look at the economy, the border, crime, what's happening with foreign policy, Biden's struggling, right? He has a lot of things going against him, okay? His far left base, they've turned against him because of his positions on Israel and the Gaza issue. You have Biden also dealing with opponents who are going to take away votes from him, whether it be RFK, Jill Stein, Cornel West. There's just a lot standing in the way of Joe Biden in re-election. And I would not be surprised if at some point we start to see conversations about Joe Biden stepping down, right? Joe Biden being replaced, because it just seems like if they continue to go with the strategy they're going with right now, it's like the election's not going to be close at all, right? I mean, this might be probably the biggest landslide victory for a Republican that we've seen in a long time, since Reagan, right? I'm just keeping it 100. That's probably what's going to happen if things continue to go the way they're going, because Trump is he's flat out winning in almost all of the swing states by like incredible margins, right? Incredible margins. And there's some fascinating trends that are happening in some of these states that I think could give us a hint in regards to the direction that Trump probably should go when it comes to his VP. And I also want to talk about how the mainstream liberal media is reacting to these polls and the fact that these cases are falling apart, because now they're going back to the whole January 6th thing, democracy, because they have nothing else, right? That's the last thing that they can stand on here. And it's just really hilarious, because they really should be asking about Democrats and whether or not they're going to accept democracy, considering how the likely outcome of the election is that Trump is going to win, right? And Democrats didn't accept the last time they lost an election. So without further ado, let's actually react to the CNN analyst who's stunned by the fact that Trump is winning by huge margins in some of these swing states. But before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video. Or have you Googled yourself lately? If not, you should try it, because it is very uncomfortable and unsettling to see that your personal, private, most sensitive information is out there for the world to see with a simple Google search. Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anybody that wants to target you. Your full name, email, home address, phone number is all out there for the world to see. This is why I love using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps me reduce how much spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who can use this information in order to get access to my social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive private information. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen or heard about this bombshell story from AT&T, but they have revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They highly recommend that those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, the good news for me, and I guess you guys as well too, is that I'm happy to tell you that Aura does all this for me. And best of all, I do not have to download several different apps just because a company could not keep my data secure. If my data was compromised by the AT&T breach, I would not worry at all because Aura is always on. They are always working hard to make sure that your data is protected and secure. I value my privacy and I value yours. This is why you can go to aura.com/BCP to start your free 2-week trial. Also linked below in the description.
Look, these Sunbelt battleground states, frankly, for the Joe Biden campaign, these numbers are an absolute disaster. The smallest lead is in Arizona for Donald Trump. He's up 6. Look at this, 9 in Georgia, 13 in Nevada. My goodness gracious, my God. That is a huge lead. No Democrat has lost that state since John Kerry lost it back in 2004. How about these Great Lake battleground states? This is something that the Joe Biden campaign can work with. Look, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump up 3, but that's well within the margin of error. Wisconsin, Donald Trump up 1, well within the margin of error. And actually, a Joe Biden lead well within the margin of error, up a point here. This they can work with the Joe Biden campaign. This, the Donald Trump campaign, absolutely loves, and it looks like a lot of the other polling on the Sunbelt battlegrounds.
When you're looking,
Yeah, so again, this is fascinating because I've told you guys that the states that Trump actually really should focus on the most, in my opinion, and this is why he held that rally in New Jersey in a blue state. But again, the surrounding states, you have Pennsylvania, is because these are the Rust Belt states, right? And these states are what is going to decide the election, okay? I mean, they decided the election in 2016. Hillary lost those states. Trump won those states. And in 2020, Trump lost those states and Biden won those states, right? So if Trump wins these states this time around, then he's most certainly going to win, right? Does he need to win all of them? No, but these states tend to kind of vote together, right, in the presidential election. And this is why I say that I believe that when it comes to Trump's VP pick, he has to pick somebody that's going to help him out with those states. And the demographic breakdown, the racial demographic breakdown in these states and how the votes are moving towards Trump or against Trump is also fascinating. They're going to get into that in a few minutes. But I want you guys to also keep in mind that in Michigan and Wisconsin, those are the two states that has the pro-Palestine backlash against Joe Biden, right? These are the two states where a significant amount of voters showed up and voted uncommitted and said, hey, we're not going to support Joe Biden because of this conflict with Israel and Gaza. So, again, those two states are states where, again, you have a good amount of people that are probably going to come out and vote against Joe Biden because of what's happening overseas.
Into the numbers, why do you think Biden is doing better in the Great Lakes and Trump is doing so much better in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, the Trump coalition is changing. That's basically what's cooking here. This is at least one of the big reasons why. So this is among likely voters in all these battleground states we just spoke about. Back in 2020, 84% of the Trump campaigns, the Trump coalition was white. Look where it is now. It's 78%. The non-white portion of the Trump coalition, it was 13% in 2020. Look at this now. It's 19%. So the Trump coalition is becoming more diverse. And, of course, those Sunbelt battleground states are more diverse than the Great Lake battleground states.
You're looking at the Nevadas and the Arizonas here.
Of course. If you look at Nevada, Arizona, heavy Hispanic population, Georgia, heavily African-American population, with the Michigan does have some black voters in it, but Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are heavily, heavily white.
Yeah, so again, this is fascinating, extremely fascinating, okay? Because, again, Trump's VP pick if the main criteria is, well, you're picking somebody that's going to help you win, okay, or at the very least, they're not going to make you lose, it's super important to understand the data and how things are shaping out. And this is kind of against conventional wisdom in regards to how Trump's coalition is changing, okay? You have almost 1/5 of his coalition being non-white. And a lot of people have said, well, Trump needs to choose somebody as VP that's not white, okay, a Marco Rubio or Tim Scott to help him out with the non-white vote. And again, the wisdom with this is that, well, this is where Trump needs help. He can take some of those votes away from Democrats, and that will help him win. However, I would say that really, to be quite honest with you, since he already has this boost among non-white voters, it might be smarter for Trump to worry about the majority of the country, aka the white vote, okay? Because if he's struggling with the white vote compared to where he was in 2020, then that's probably what he should be thinking about in regards to, okay, how do I improve my weaknesses, okay? I mean, he could double down and say, hey, we're going to go with a Tim Scott or a Marco Rubio. I just don't think it's really going to help him out all that much, right? I really don't think that there's going to be much more to be gained from selecting a VP because they're a so-called person of color to get more non-white people to vote for you when you already have made gains in that area, but you're struggling with voters who are white, who make up a vast majority of the people in the states that you need to win the most in order to win the election, aka the Rust Belt, okay? Those white working class individuals. That is who Trump really needs to double down and try to appeal to be quite honest with you, if he really wants to win. And some people may not like to hear that, but I believe that that is the key, right? I really do, okay? Because I think regardless of if he picks a so-called person of color, if they can't help him in these Rust Belt states, it's not really going to help out his campaign. And this is why I really do believe that Trump probably is going to go in the direction of a J.D. Vance, who's a Republican, America First senator from Ohio, or maybe a Doug Burgum, okay, who is the governor of North Dakota, I believe. They're probably going to go with somebody like him, somebody that really can help him out with those, again, white working class voters in the Rust Belt. Now, what I find to be funny about this is that Kristi Noem, maybe 2 weeks ago, would have been the perfect kind of VP pick to kind of thread the needle here because, again, he needs help with women as well, too. Okay, these suburban women who are these Nikki Haley voters definitely need some type of woman to be able to talk to them and to speak to them. However, it seems as if, she's ruined her chances with the whole killing her dog thing, right? So, I'm just saying, like, Kristi Noem probably would have been the perfect pick to help out, again, with some of these Rust Belt voters who also, again, are women as well, too, and to get that coalition behind you, which is, again, what he needs to do in order to win. So, I mean, she's probably out of it because of her own, mess ups or whatever, but I personally think if I was Trump, I would lean in the direction of, again, who's going to help me shore up the Rust Belt vote. More so than thinking about, well, I need to pick somebody because they're a person of color, right? And I don't know if that's the case, okay? Because if you don't lose anything by, bringing on somebody that's going to help you with the Rust Belt, okay, regardless of whether or not they're a person of color, whether they're white or whatever, okay? If you're not going to lose any so-called people of color, okay, if you're already doing well with those people, then, again, it probably makes more sense to pick somebody that's actually going to help you out where you're struggling, to help shore up that part of the electorate. And preferably this individual is also ideologically America first, okay? And this is why I'm, again, super bullish right now on J.D. Vance, because I think he fits the bill perfectly in regards to the individual that would be needed, like young energy, a guy that, again, he looks like somebody from that area, from that part of the country. He can speak to those people. He can speak to the issues, again, from America First perspective, and he would be somebody that I wouldn't mind seeing take the reins if it comes down to that. Now, again, hopefully that doesn't happen within Trump's 4 years, but I'm just saying afterwards, moving into the future, somebody like J.D. Vance, he's friends with Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm actually pretty sure J.D. Vance probably influenced Vivek a lot in regards to politics. They probably influenced each other. They have very similar viewpoints on politics and, certain policy positions. So Again, this is why I really like him, because he's like getting Vivek, but without the unfortunate downside of pissing off people like Ann Coulter, right? Who, for her own reasons, she could never vote for somebody like Vivek, even though she likes him more than most Republicans, right? I'm just saying. J.D. Vance kind of fits that bill, okay? This is why I'm bullish on him. And again, I would be pretty excited if Trump picks him as the VP. I personally believe that if I was Trump, that's the direction I would go in, but who knows, okay? I just find that these numbers are fascinating.
And Wisconsin are heavily, heavily white.
It's very interesting. Okay, add it all up. What does this say about where the race stands right now? We're talking Electoral College and the race to 270.
Yeah, the race to 270. It's advantage Donald Trump, but he's not over the 270 mark just yet, all right? So if we flip Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia here in your lighter shades of pink, you add them to the states, and of course the 2nd Congressional District up in Maine, which Donald Trump won last time around, that gets him to 268 electoral votes. If we keep Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in the too close to call category, along with Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, Joe Biden at 225. So it's advantage Donald Trump, but Joe Biden does at this point have a path to 270.
Yeah, and right now, as you're pointing out, neither.
Yeah.
Neither there.
Neither there.
And we have.
Yeah, so again, I think that it's likely that Trump is probably going to take at least one of these states in the Rust Belt, whether it be Pennsylvania, whether it be a Michigan, whether it be a Wisconsin. He's going to take one of these states, which will put him over the edge. And again, this is why I say that that's probably where his mind should be in regards to a potential VP pick is in the Rust Belt, how to win over those voters. But anyways, so continued reaction here from Trump deranged CNN. As Van Jones, okay, is going to boohoo, whine, and cry about some of the possible Trump VP candidates refusing to essentially say that, hey, they're going to accept the outcome of the 2024 election no matter what. And what I find to be fascinating about this conversation is that, considering, again, where the polls are right now, I don't think that they should be asking Republicans whether or not they're going to accept the result. They actually really should be asking Democrats, right, whether or not they are going to accept the results of the 2024 election, because it looks like if the election was held today, Trump will win. And Democrats did not accept the results of the 2016 election. In fact, they still contest those results, claiming it was Russia, it was Putin. So I'm not sure exactly why they directed these questions at Republicans when they really should be directing them at Democrats.
I talked about potential running mates for Donald Trump, and this is to both of you, Van and Matt here, listen in, because they've been going on the Sunday shows basically dancing around the issue of accepting the election results in 2024. Listen to a little mishmash of non-answers to the question of will you accept the election results.
What about 2024? What about 2024?
We will see if this is a legal and valid election.
Just simply yes or no.
I expect President Trump to win the next election. Listen, I'm not going to answer your hypothetical question.
And certainly, if we have a free and fair election, I'll accept the results.
Yeah, I'll accept it, but I think, there's no massive cheating.
If you have state officials who are violating the election law in their states because of an emergency, without going through the legislative process, which is by our Constitution and by every law in our states, then no, I would not.
Yeah, so if I was one of these people, you know what I would do? Again, I would flip it around and say, well, you really should be asking Democrats whether or not they're going to accept the outcome of the election, because they didn't accept the outcome of the 2016 election. They kept saying Trump is an illegitimately elected president. So why are you asking me when it looks like, as of today, if the election was held, Trump would win? So it seems like most likely we should be talking about what's going to happen if Democrats lose the election, right? That's what we actually really should be talking about.
Whole lot of ifs and maybes there, Van.
Yeah, this is failing kindergarten when it comes to politics. Like, yes, you accept the election results, and you don't insult the integrity of the American democratic process, which is the envy of the world. It has been the envy of the world. There is no evidence of any significant cheating at all. 0.001%, and none of it affecting the outcome of the election. But these are the termites that you unleash into the foundation of a democracy that later on can come back and crash the whole house when you have people who no longer believe in the integrity of our elections. They are playing with fire. They're playing with matches. They're playing with nitroglycerin. This is one of the more despicable impacts of Donald Trump on the American body politic. This sort of nonsense from otherwise, in some cases, good and decent folks.
Matt?
No, look, I think I wouldn't expect, honestly, to see a lot of folks that want to be his vice president say something that's diametrically opposite on whether this or really any issue on Trump. There's a spectrum. And you saw kind of J.D. Vance's previous things pretty clear. There are other ones that aren't as clear, but I think that's just something, if you want to be his vice president, there are sort of guardrails and sort of things you have to kind of stay within. I wouldn't expect to see folks say something that's diametrically opposite than what the top of the ticket's saying.
Yeah, well, that speaks volumes in and of itself. Matt?
Well, I mean, again, what we really should worry about is what happens if Democrats lose, because there's no doubt in my mind that these people are likely to commit acts of violence, right, in these liberal cities. They'll be boarding up these liberal cities, right, because these people will lose their minds, okay, because Trump got elected. And again, we saw that when he was elected in 2016. And we saw political violence before the 2020 election, mostly leftists. And we're seeing it right now from the pro-Palestinian rioters that are upset with Joe Biden. So again, it's just fascinating to me how the mainstream liberal media, they always want to play up this threat of political violence from the right when they only have one event, literally just one thing to point to any possibility of political violence. January 6th, which again was just one day, okay, one day. But we have years of political violence from Democrats when they don't get their way, but yet they're not worried about that, right? They're not asking questions of, okay, well, Democrats, are you going to accept the election results? Because you didn't accept them in 2016. Are you guys going to condemn violence as a result of you losing, right? When your people go out and riot in the streets and tear things up because they're mad that Trump is back in office, are you going to condemn that? Those are the questions they really should be asking. I just find it to be fascinating because they've now moved on to this whole January 6th thing and accepting the election results because the trials are done, right? They have nothing with that anymore, so they move back to square one, right? They're back at square one. All right, well, we got to talk about January 6th and democracy now, right? Which is, again, what they were talking about the most leading up to the indictments against Trump. Now, again, that they're basically done, right? In regards to that happening before the election. Now they're back to, well, January 6th, okay? Which is hilarious because, again, if you look at the polls, Biden and Trump are basically tied when it comes to the whole democracy conversation. Is basically a wash. So, again, it's not like it's going to work. It's not going to move the needle at all. And it's just funny because they are talking about this because they can't talk about anything else. Biden is essentially losing on everything else except what? Climate change and abortion? Abortion is the only thing that Democrats got. That is the only thing that they got at this point. So, hey, we'll see. I personally would not be surprised if they start to talk about removing Biden, right? Saying, look, you got to step down. We need somebody else to run because this is not it, right? We're going to lose if we continue to go down this path. I think that's probably the next thing that's going to come up, right? That's just my gut feeling, but I don't know, right? I'm just saying don't be surprised to see Democrats try to pull some type of rabbit out the hat or something like that. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.